ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 1 of the series What If Tobirama Reincarnated as Deku in MHA World? So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Tobirama watched as Madara slowly closed his eyes and died before his body broke apart and turned into a pile left from destroyed reincarnations. It appears to be our time brother, said Tobirama while watching his body slowly break apart and could now see his soul. Yes, it appears so, Tobirama. I can't wait to see Mito again. Naruto, Sasuke, we entrust the safety and future of this world to you. Please end this needless cycle of hatred and being peace to the world, said Hashirama as he slowly started to break apart. And we're putting a lot of faith into you, but me and my brother are sure you can do it, said Tobirama before his body fell apart and his soul rose into the sky. Naruto, become Hokage and bring peace to this world. Tobirama closed his eyes and was ready to see his family and finally rest while being with them as he watched the world continue on without him. Come on, Miss Midoriya, push, said a doctor. What is going on? Thought Tobirama in slight confusion. Oh, yelled Inko as she was trying desperately to give birth to her son. Come on, honey, you're almost there, said Hisashi holding his wife's hand. Ready and push, said the doctor as Inko gave one final scream and the sounds of a baby crying were heard. It's healthy, baby boy. Inko panted for a little before she reached out and took her baby into her arms and looked him over. Inko, is it just me, or does our baby have white hair and red eyes? Said Hisashi. He was slightly worried that the baby might not be his. Well, it's possible that it's a latent gene or a birth defect that made his hair white and eyes red. But don't worry, we'll run a blood test to make sure, said the doctor. Tobirama opened his eyes and looked around the room. I seem to be a baby, and from the looks of this, I've just been born. So does that mean that I was reincarnated sometime into the future, and if so, for what purpose? Thought Tobirama. What should we name him, Inko? Asked Hisashi, looking down at his son and wife. Izuku, said Inko as she gently caressed his face with a loving smile on hers. So my name is Izuku. God damn it. Thought Tobirama, wishing he could change it, but knew he couldn't. Much like I always said, I must accept and deal with it until the mission is over. But that doesn't mean I can't change it to my original name when I get older. Tobirama knew he sounded petty, but his original name held a lot of weight to it because it was the name his real mother gave him. Izuku, that's a perfect name, Inko, said Hisashi, who reached out and gently ran his hand over his son's white hair. For year time skip. Izuku, breakfast is ready, said Inko, calling down her son. Coming, mother, said Izuku. Izuku grew up into a young healthy boy, but it concerned his parents for how smart he seemed to be and how fast he caught on to things along with being extremely blunt. They took him to the doctors, and they said it might have to do with his quirk that's developing in his body. Izuku, are you excited to be getting your quirk soon? Said Inko as she put down his breakfast in front of him at the table. It will be quite interesting to see what my quirk will be, said Izuku. From what I've read and learned, it seems that no one uses chakra. But they use these quirks, which are quite fascinating. So it makes me wonder what mine will be. My mother has weak telekinesis and my father can breathe fire, so I should have either one or a combination of both. Thought Izuku as he ate his breakfast and started to think about starting his training to get his skills up again. Ever since he could start walking, he worked on getting his chakra unlocked, which luckily he was able to. He could also tell that his was even stronger now and seemed much more potent, like his brother's in a way. He hasn't begun training yet because his body is still too young for it, but next year he'll be able to start his training. Izuku did do some experiments and found that he can still do all his jutsus, but because of his smaller frame he has to be more careful since his coils are still young and developing. After a quick breakfast, Inko took Izuku to preschool for him to learn and play with his friends. Sadly, because of how smart Izuku was, he didn't have a lot of friends and was treated as a freak because he showed to be smarter than the teachers at times. Okay, honey, have fun at preschool today, and I'll be back to pick you up when it's over, said Inko before she was stopped when Izuku handed her a note. Mother, could you please get me the materials on this paper? It'll help with writing and studying, said Izuku. Inko blinked and looked over the materials. 1. As many blank scrolls as you can find. 2. Calligraphy brush and ink. Izuku, honey, why do you need these? Isn't pen and paper good enough? Pen and paper is good, but I feel writing with those would be much better for what I want to do. Besides, our ancient ancestors used to use them, so in a way, it'll be honoring them, said Izuku. He told the truth, but not the whole truth. He wanted to get started recording his jutsus and working on his Fuinjutsu again. All right, honey, I'll stop at the store and try and get you some, okay, said Inko. Thank you, mother, said Izuku before he gave her a small bow and left to enter the building. Inko smiled and waved before she looked down sadly. My baby boy is growing up so fast, said Inko sadly. But he's still my baby no matter what, and I'll try my best to help him. Izuku walked through the preschool and headed to his class, where he sat down at his desk and pulled out a book and started writing in it. He started writing down his philosophy on life and the purpose of it, so when he passes on it, can go to future generations and help them with life. As he was doing that, someone walked up to his desk with an aura of superiority around him and a scowl. What are you doing, Deku? Said Katsuki angrily. They used to be friends, but they never really got along since Izuku always seemed way too mature. Writing in my book, Bakugo, said Izuku. TCH, you think you're so special, because you're smarter, don't you? Said Katsuki, with his superiority and inferiority complex conflicting another. I don't think I'm special, Bakugo, I just show a greater understanding of things, said Izuku, before he decided to just ignore him. Well, guess what, Deku, I'm gonna be number 1. And there's nothing you can do to stop me, you quirkless freak, said Katsuki, but was met with silence. That angered him greatly, and it got him angry to the point he decided to attack Izuku. Thanks to Izuku's literal decades of combat in his previous life, he was able to see Katsuki's attack from a mile away. Katsuki's fist came flying to Izuku, and Izuku's hand shot up and grabbed his wrist while he flipped over Katsuki and put him in an arm lock. Before Katsuki could even react to this, he felt something sharp against his jugular and saw that it was Izuku's pin. Bakugo, I'm only going to warn you once, leave me alone, said Izuku in a very cold tone as he let go of him and sat at his desk and went back to his book. Katsuki honestly felt scared at that very moment, because when his eyes met Izuku's, they were cold and promised pain. The teacher walked in and saw that some of the students looked at Izuku with fear and some with respect. She brushed it off and decided to start the day's lesson. All right, everyone, today we're gonna continue learning Basic Edition, said the teacher with a happy tone. Izuku could only let out a deep breath as he closed his eyes and crossed his arms and waited. Izuku was in his room working on some Fuinjutsu that Mito taught him. He was very glad he decided to learn the art. The possibilities with Fuinjutsu are endless, but sadly not that many people other than Uzumaki's learned it. He decided to change that, and with his current plans, he's going to teach at least intermediate levels to his soon-to-be subordinates. Izuku, dear, what are you drawing? Asked Inko, who just walked into the room. She looked around his room, and it kind of hurt her how Spartan it was. His room only had a bed and a desk, as well as a TV, which was only used for background noise and to keep up with up-to-date news. It was some art I saw, and decided to try and copy it, lied Izuku. The seal he was working on is a silent kill seal. You only had to place the seal on a person, and within seconds or days, depending on what you wanted, would live the person. Well, it's very beautiful, Izuku, said Inko as she patted his head. Thank you, mother, said Izuku with the ghost of a smile on his face. He can't even remember the last time his real mother hugged him. But Inko gave him that old feeling he still remembered with his real mom, and he never realized how much he missed it. So, Izuku, what do you want to be when you grow up? Maybe be a hero or a technician or maybe a scientist, said Inko. Being a hero is overrated. All it is a glorified job where people in spandex just run around and beat up some guy and get paid millions to do it. Not only that, but heroes really don't do much else except make themselves rich and companies richer. The only heroes out there that really do anything are underground ones, because they deal with the real monsters of the world, said Izuku. I'm not sure what I will do in the future, but I want to do something that can truly help society. Even though we have amazing heroes, as society says they really aren't. Look at All Might, he's the symbol of peace. But because of him, society is completely reliant on his pillar, and once that pillar crumbles, all of society will follow with it. The world has put too much weight on one thing, and that's heroes, and once we face a problem that they can't handle, we will all collapse. Inko's eyes were wide when she heard her son speak like this. It truly amazed her how wise and smart her son is. He's very blunt and never sugarcoats things. He always views things from a certain standpoint that once you hear you can't help but agree. Take for example, what if a powerful villain organization strikes at Hero Society and gave a decisive blow? A blow powerful enough that it caused the entire foundation to collapse under its own weight. If that was to happen, we'd be in total and complete chaos where the government would use heroes as soldiers to control us. People would panic and riots would break out in response, and as that happened, the villains would use it to their advantage. What we need is something that when the foundation does collapse will hold society up and together until it's fixed. And I tend to be the person that creates this. I shall make something that will hold and protect us from this false hope we've made. People nowadays are simply just too optimistic, and as long as they feel safe, they are completely fine with having the veil over their eyes, said Izuku. Inko stood there completely speechless and didn't even know how to respond to what he just said because of how true it sounded. Everything he said is true once you begin to think about it, and it's truly scary once you realize how fragile society is right now. Well, I'm sure if anyone can do it, you can, Izuku, said Inko as she hugged Izuku. Izuku had a small smile and hugged her back before he got serious and went back to his scroll. Well, I won't bother you until dinner is ready, and remember, I'll always believe in you, Izuku, said Inko as she left. Izuku smiled again and pulled out a blank scroll where he took a deep breath and began writing in it. Umbu rules and codes. This scroll would contain all the rules the Umbu he was going to create would follow. He reached over and placed empty scroll nearby. Once he was done with this one, the next one would go over the training regime for Umbu, as well as tactics and everything they'd need to survive. I won't make the same mistakes I did in the last life, and I shall ensure that children never have to face the reality of war, said Izuku. And if I feel like it, maybe I'll start a family. I can already hear Hashirama and Mito nagging at me to have a family unlike my previous life. Izuku was sitting in his room meditating and feeling his chakra while trying to expand his sensing ability he used to do with ease. He expanded his senses as far as he can at the moment and was able to sense everyone within a mile's radius. Back in his old life, he was able to sense 20x that. Izuku, what are you doing? Said Hisashi, walking in and seeing his son sit in a weird position. I'm meditating, father. It helps clear the mind, said Izuku. Oh, well, would you like to go and do something just father and son? Asked Hisashi, hoping to spend some time with him. Izuku took a deep breath and stood up. Very well, father. So what will we be doing? Well, I was thinking we can go out to eat, then maybe go see a movie if you'd like, said Hisashi. All right, just let me get changed, said Izuku as he went to his dresser to look for some better clothes. Hisashi smiled and walked out of the room and saw Inko giving him a thumbs up. See, I told you he'd spend some time with you, Hisashi, said Inko, patting his shoulder. Yeah, I was just worried. I mean, I'm barely around and he's so mature now. I just want to do something that'll make me feel like a good dad, said Hisashi. He may not show it, but he does care very deeply about us, said Inko. How about you ask him if there's anything he wants, and maybe you can buy it for him? Yeah, I could do that too, said Hisashi, feeling pride swell up in him. I'm ready to go, father, said Izuku, walking out wearing a black tank top and brown shorts with some black sandals on. Great. Let's go and have some fun, Izuku, said Hisashi, walking out the door with Izuku following. Izuku and Hisashi left the house and went to the car where they got in and left, heading out to get lunch first. So Izuku, how has school been? Asked Hisashi. School is adequate, father. Most things I already know, so the teacher just lets me do as I wish, said Izuku. Well, that's good to hear, Izuku. So, what would you like to eat? Said Hisashi. I'd like some fish, but I'm fine with anything, father, said Izuku. Hisashi smiled and nodded and looked around for a restaurant, and after a couple more minutes he saw a sushi restaurant. Would this be all right, Izuku? Asked Hisashi, gesturing to the sushi restaurant. It will do, father. I'm fine with anything, said Izuku. Hisashi nodded and parked the car in the parking lot as both of them exited it, then went inside the restaurant and sat down and ordered food. Izuku. I'm sorry I'm not around as much as I should be, said Hisashi. It's all right, father. I understand that you have to make money to help me and mother, so I don't hold it against you, said Izuku. Well, I'm glad. But I'd still like to try and get closer, 'cause it feels to me that I'm not a very good father to you, said Hisashi. Izuku could only nod. He still remembers how sad his brother was whenever his Hokage duties took him away from his family. Well, in that case, let's just enjoy today, so you can feel like a good father, even though you are one, said Izuku. Hisashi nodded, and was about to say something when their sushi was placed in front of them and they began eating. Izuku and Hisashi spent the rest of the day wandering around then when it saw a movie that Izuku said was alright but flawed. Sadly, because of the obsession with heroes, 95% of movies nowadays are only about them and nothing else. The All Might movie was alright, but had so many glaring issues, said Izuku with him and his dad walking out the mall. Like what, Izuku? Said Hisashi, curious on what his son would say about it. They make it seem that as long as the hero shows up you will be safe, and nothing can harm you. Which is far from the truth. Even when the hero shows up the person could still die, said Izuku. Hisashi could only nod. He's seen and heard a couple stories when stuff like that has happened and saw the logic behind what he said. Not only that, but our government doesn't even give us the right to defend ourselves from villains, said Izuku, catching Hisashi's attention. For example, if a villain was to come and mug some random person, and said person was to use his or her quirk, they would get in trouble by the law and be treated as a villain. All that does is make it easier for villains and make us overly reliant on heroes. How are we supposed to defend ourselves or our loved ones if we get attacked by villains? It's a very flawed law and gives villains too much freedom. The only options it gives us is to run away or hope for a hero to show up. Hisashi looked shocked at what his son just said. He looked up and saw shocked looks of other people around him, with some nodding in agreement. I agree, Izuku, but there's nothing we can do unless enough people say otherwise about the law. Izuku? Said Hisashi before he turned and saw that Izuku was gone. He started to panic before he saw Izuku walking down the street towards a store that had a katana symbol and was called Authentic Weapons. Izuku walked into the store and saw lots of real katanas, wakizashis, tantos, shurikens, and kunais all along the walls. He continued to walk through, but something in the back caught his eye. It was being held in a viewing case, and it was a headband. It was obviously very old and rusty because it covered most of it, but he could faintly make out the symbol of the hidden leaf. Hey kid, this doesn't seem like the type of store you should be interested in, said the shop owner walking up to him. I'm just looking around is all, said Izuku, walking up to the kunais and picking one up. These are off balance, too much weight at the tip, and it's very dull. Snordo, and how would you know? Said the shop owner. Because this, said Izuku as he tried to balance it on his finger only for it to flop forwards and fall to the ground. See, it's too heavy at the front. Izuku, what are you doing here? Asked Hisashi, walking into the store. Looking around, father. I think these weapons are interesting, but the kunai are off balance and weighted dull, said Izuku. Plague, they are just for show, nothing else. The real ones are back here, said the owner, grabbing some kunai from the back and showing them to Izuku. Izuku reached up and grabbed it and looked it up and down. This is more balanced, but, said Izuku, who then threw it at a target, hitting a bullseye. Still not sharp enough. If they were truly sharp, they would at least be up to the handle and the target. Hisashi and the shop owner looked in shock that Izuku was able to hit a bullseye without even looking. Kid, do that again, said the shop owner. Izuku took a deep breath through his nose and did as was asked and threw another kunai that hit the same spot at the other. Hisashi looked and could almost tell that these weapons were meant for him, and he knew what he wanted to buy his son. Sir, how much for a couple sets of kunai and stuff? Asked Hisashi, reaching for his wallet. You know what, I'll give you guys a 30% discount, said the owner, who was beyond impressed. Great, and Izuku, is there something else here you would like? Asked Hisashi. Izuku walked over to the sword section and found a katana with white wrappings around the handle and grabbed it. He gave it a couple of test swings, making sure it was good before he put it on the counter. Okay, let's see. 4 sets of kunai and shuriken, which equal 20 each for each set. And the katana. Also adding the discount, your total is 341,125 yen. $3,000. Hisashi's eyes went wide when he heard that and was about to ask getting rid of some before he looked over at Izuku, who was looking at other stuff. So he sighed and handed him his debit card and paid for it all. Thank you for shopping with us, and I'll throw in a sharpening stone and a cleaning kit for free with it, said the owner. Hisashi nodded and grabbed the things before him, and Izuku left, heading for home. They arrived home, and Izuku grabbed his new weapons and walked towards his room to begin drawing seals on his sword. He wanted to be able to pour his chakra into his sword, so he has more versatility when fighting enemies. So how did it go, honey? Asked Inko. It went good. We had some fun and did some stuff. I also took your advice and bought him something he'd like, said Hisashi, hoping she wouldn't kill him when she found out. Oh, and what did you buy him? Asked Inko, happily wondering what he got Izuku as a gift. Well, I might have bought him some weapons, said Hisashi. What? Screamed Inko, making Hisashi start running away with her chasing him holding a frying pan. Izuku heard his mother scream at his father and start chasing him, to most likely finish him for buying these weapons for a 4-year-old. Maybe I could bring my sealing levels to Mito's level or Minato's level and be able to create any seal I want by only molding my chakra, said Izuku as took a deep breath and placed his hand on a piece of paper and tried to create a seal by molding his chakra. He sat there for 10 minutes trying this, while ignoring his father's screams for mercy. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple before he lifted his hand and saw the seal on the piece of paper. He let a rare smirk cross his face as he saw this one step closer to my goal to trying to fix this world like me and my brother tried. Izuku was now 5 years old and was walking through the woods in the winter, trying to enjoy the peace and quiet. He unlocked his quirk last year and was surprised by what it ended up being: ocean release. It allowed him to completely control of any and all water around him, including liquids inside living things. But he doesn't use it much because it ended up being extremely chakra taxing for now, but once he's older he should be able to use it freely. When everyone in school found out how powerful his quirk is, everyone tried to befriend him simply because of his quirk. Some of the kids he might respond to, but most he simply ignored. One kid, however, made it his personal goal to try and bully him. Katsuki Bakugo. His ego was badly bruised when Izuku revealed his powerful quirk and made it his personal job to bully him. Most of the attempts he made ended with him in the nurse's office with bruises and an even more damaged ego. As Izuku continued to walk, he sensed someone a ways ahead of him. From what he could tell, it was a kid a couple years older than him. Izuku quickly ran up the hill using some chakra to jump across the trees to cover more ground and soon arrived at the place. It was a kid a couple years older and had snow-white hair and what looked to be some burn scars on his body. He was laying on the ground unconscious. Izuku could sense a little bit of chakra in him, and luckily he was still young enough if he wanted could unlock it. He looked up and saw that the snow was increasing fast and decided to make a small camp for him and the older boy. So he walked over to him and used some chakra to increase his strength, picked him up and carried him to a good spot to camp for now. Toya slowly opened his eyes and saw that he was under a tree and laying on some pine branches to keep him off the ground. In front of him was a fire and a kid around the age of Shoto, sitting in front of it stoking the flames with a stick. I see you're awake, said Izuku, looking at Toya. He reached into his pocket and tossed him a ration bar he made. It won't taste good, but it'll give you some of your strength back. Toya looked at the bar and slowly unwrapped it and took a bite before he began gagging. Bleg, this tastes horrible. I didn't say it'd taste good. All I said was it'll give you some of your strength back, said Izuku, going back to the fire. Toya grumbled and forced the food down. Even though it tasted horrible, he did feel better. He sat there staring at the kid for a while before he spoke. Who are you? Izuku Midoriya, and who are you? Also, why are you out in the woods? It's dangerous for you, said Izuku. If I could say the same for you. I mean, you're younger than me, said Toya, and I was waiting for my dad. Yes, but I know how to survive out here, and he's not coming, said Izuku. Shut up, how do you know? Yelled Toya, glaring at the kid. Because I can sense everything in 5-mile radius around us right now, and no one is near us except the park ranger at his post, said Izuku. Toya gritted his teeth and fell to the ground, letting out chocked sobs. He looked and saw that his burn scars were covered in bandages. Why? Sniff, why doesn't he praise me like the others? Sobbed Toya. Ambition and greed, said Izuku. From what I saw on your ID, your dad is Endeavor, and he most likely saw no use for you. He wants to surpass All Might, and he wouldn't hesitate to destroy his family to do so, said Izuku. I just wanted to make him proud of me like he used to be, said Toya. As sad as it is, your father doesn't care about you anymore, said Izuku coldly. Shut up, said Toya. Izuku looked over and saw all the pent-up anger, pain, sadness, betrayal, and loneliness in his eyes, and he decided to help. Why does the truth hurt, said Izuku, standing up and looking at him. Does it hurt knowing you're just yesterday's trash? Shut the hell up. What would you know about pain and suffering? Screamed Toya. I bet not once have you ever had to suffer. After he screamed that, Izuku got flashbacks to his siblings, his family, his clan, friends, students, brother who all died, and his once short-time lover who he lost to some IWA ninjas. I'm simply stating the facts. You're nothing more than a failed experiment, said Izuku. Toya finally snapped and charged at Izuku, screaming and throwing punches at him. Izuku simply blocked or dodged all of Toya's punches for a while, making Toya even angrier. Ah! Screamed Toya as he sent a massive wave of blue flames at Izuku. Izuku went through a couple of quick hand signs and created a wall of water to block the attack. Water style. Water whip jutsu, said Izuku as the wall of water changed into a whip and smacked Toya away. Toya slowly stood up and ignored the pain and sent another blast of flames at Izuku while ignoring the pain in his arm from his fire. Izuku dodged the attack and moved in closer and kneed him in the gut, making Toya fall down. Feel better, said Izuku, looking down at the panting form of Toya. Why? Said Toya with tears streaming down his face. Izuku knew what he was asking, so he answered, some people are so blinded by greed or lust for power they will do anything for it, even if it means destroying everything they once loved and cared for. He kneeled down in front of Toya and let him cry, but was slightly caught off guard when he suddenly hugged him and started crying into his shoulder. Izuku was used to this because of his brother, but he knew he wasn't the best for these types of situations. So he simply let Toya cry and gently patted his back. After a while, Toya finally stopped crying and let go of Izuku and wiped his tears away. Sorry, said Toya. It's fine, said Izuku as he stood. Wait, how are you so strong? Asked Toya. I trained, said Izuku, walking back to the fire. But you're younger than me. You shouldn't be this talented, said Toya. I'm special, as you could say. But anyways, why do you want to impress your father so bad, said Izuku. So he can be proud of me, and so I can be a great hero, said Toya. Being a hero is overrated. You'd be better off being a cop, said Izuku. What do you mean? Asked Toya, beyond confused. Heroes don't help. Lots of the problems they solve they also create. Look at All Might. What will happen if he suddenly dies or has to retire because of an injury? I'll tell you. Complete anarchy, said Izuku. So what would you do then? Asked Toya. I'll create an organization that is loyal to no government and has no ties to them, and that we work in the shadows. Our simple goal would to be stop villains and maintain peace from the shadows. That way less people would be hurt, said Izuku. Toya looked at him with awe and shock, and deep down he didn't know why, but he felt an urge to follow him. So how will you do that? You'll need a lot of strength and people and money to that, said Toya. I have strength, but in time, I shall have the other two, said Izuku. Prove it, said Toya. Izuku took a deep breath and stood up and walked to the clearing before he went through more hand seals. Water style. Water dragon jutsu, said Izuku as he created a massive water dragon out of the snow and moisture in the air. He sent the water dragon towards some trees and destroyed 30 before it lost momentum. Earth style. Lightweight rock jutsu, said Izuku as he grabbed a massive boulder in front of him and picked it up with ease and threw it away. Fire style. Dragon flame jutsu, said Izuku as he sent out a massive fireball the size of a SUV from his mouth. Wind style. Air bullet jutsu, said Izuku as he sent out a condensed ball of air that tore through multiple trees. Lightning style. Raikiri, said Izuku as he concentrated a massive amount of lightning chakra into his hand, then plunged it into the tree in front of him. He only saw it once, but was able to figure out Kakashi did it, and with trial and error was able to recreate the jutsu. Toya looked at Izuku in complete awe of the power he just showed him and just couldn't believe his eyes. Like I said, I have strength, and it will only continue to grow after time, said Izuku. Train me, said Toya, looking at Izuku. Izuku looked at him for a while with neither of them speaking before he turned around and started to walk away. Toya saw this and held his head down in disappointment. Are you coming or not, said Izuku as he continued to walk, but made sure it was loud enough for Toya to hear. He quickly smiled and ran after Izuku in hopes of being trained. Mother, I am home, and I brought a friend, said Izuku, entering the house with Toya right behind him. Okay, And oh why hello my name is Inko Midoriya, what's your name? Said Inko, walking towards Toya and smiling. Dabi. My name is Dabi, said the now named Dabi. 13 years later. Izuku was standing on an elevated platform watching over his recruits, but mainly watching Dabi since he is planning to make him part of his team. They were in a secret bunker he built out in the woods where he built or bought everything he'd need to run a secret organization. A training area, barracks, food court, storage room, medical room, information room, library, and prison/interrogation area. Again, said Izuku, watching Dabi struggle to do the jutsu. Fire-style fireball jutsu, said Dabi as he sent a massive fireball from his mouth, with it being the same color as his normal flames. Next, said Izuku. Dabi then quickly grabbed some kunai and threw them, getting 9 out of 10 bullseyes. He then ran towards a shadow clone of Izuku and engaged it in taijutsu, which wasn't his strong suit. Izuku-sensei, said a figure kneeling next to him, wearing some standard training clothes. What is it? Said Izuku, looking at one of his soon-to-be umbu. We've been gathering information like you've ordered us to, and we found some more recruits, said the figure. He had long blonde hair and black eyes with red scara. His quirk allows him to track people by seeing the path they've walked. Good, and thank you. Also assemble everyone, I have an announcement to make to them, said Izuku. Hi, he then body flickered away. After a couple minutes, over 80 people were standing at attention in front of Izuku and waiting for what he has to say. They were all saved and practically raised by him because society viewed them as outcasts. But he didn't. He taught them things they thought impossible, and even though he was harsh, he cared deeply for each one. Because of this, they would gladly follow him to hell if he asked them to. Good. Now that you're all here, I have something to tell you all, and if you don't want to be a part of it, you may leave. But you shall be mind-wiped if you do, said Izuku. Over the years I have rescued you, or brought you in for a better life, where you shall all be treated equally. I trained you, I fed you, and I gave each of you a purpose, and now I shall tell you why I did this. This world is corrupt, and the government would rather its people suffer than defend themselves. They would rather us rely on them. And because of this, our people can't protect ourselves. We are forced to rely on heroes and police, or we will be treated like villains. Our society is corrupt, and heroes don't care for saving people. All they care for is money and fame. The ones in charge, the Hero Association, only care about control and power and are willing to do anything to maintain it. I have built this organization, and we shall be the shadows in this world, where we shall strike from the night to protect those weaker. We shall be the ones that shall cloak ourselves in darkness and not fall into it. We shall be the ones that look at evil and say, bring it. So I ask all of you, if you are willing to join me and protect this world to make sure kids never have to starve or fear losing their family, then join me, and we shall protect them from the true evil of this world, said Izuku. All of the people in the room looked at him, with none of them moving before Dabi took one step forward and kneeled. I shall follow you to the end, sir, said Dabi. The others soon followed and all kneeled down. We shall follow you to the end, sir. Very well. From this day forth we shall be known as Umbu, and you are all Umbu agents. Now step forward and take your gear, said Izuku. As he pushed a button, and the over 80 suitcases came out of the wall. They all stepped forward and took a case before the quickly changed into their Umbu gear and adorned the Umbu mask. You are now part of the shadows. You keep the darkness from the light and protect and serve. And from this day forth you shall call me Hokage-sama, or Tobirama-sama, said Izuku, using his true name. Hi, Hokage-sama, said all the new Umbu agents. The last thing I have to give you all is the Umbu tattoo, which shows that you are part of the organization, but also will allow me to give you orders from far away or call for an emergency, said Izuku. All the agents got in a line and waited as Izuku grabbed multiple bottles of ink. You will all need to put 1 drop of your blood into the ink, for this tattoo shall never disappear and forever be with you. After a long 30 minutes of placing the seal on each one of them with it now being a tattoo, they all went back and stood at attention. All of you have the night off. Do what you want, but don't get crazy, for tomorrow we begin our work, said Izuku before he turned around and left. Hi, Hokage-sama, said all the Umbu in the room before they all went off to do their own thing or talk to friends or now family. Izuku soon arrived in his office and sat down in his seat and leaned back and thought about the 10 years that have passed. After Izuku and Dabi met, they began their friendship, slash training with Izuku, training him to be a ninja. They would visit every single day. Dabi would be beaten to the ground, but always got up afterward to make Izuku proud. Time continued to pass, and over time Izuku found other people either slightly older than him or around his age. Over time, he secretly built a base to call his headquarters, and soon brought them there to live if they wanted to. Izuku was knocked out of his thoughts when Dabi entered the room and had his tiger mask hooked to his hip. Tobirama-sama, I have a question, said Dabi, using the title Izuku told them to use. What is it? Said Tobirama. Who will be our main target that we go after? I know you mentioned that we shall fight villains and some heroes, but who else? Said Dabi. We shall take down crime syndicates and heroes that don't even deserve that title. We shall also go after the Hero Association, since they are responsible for most of this, said Tobirama. I understand and thank you, said Dabi before he left the room to most likely get some sleep. Izuku arrived back at home and saw his mom and dad sitting on the couch watching TV. Oh, Izuku, I'm glad you're back. How's Dabi? Said Inko. He's doing good, mother, but forgive me, but I'd like to get some sleep, said Izuku as he walked to his bedroom. He got in and changed into his pajamas and was about to get in bed when his door was opened. Hey, Izuku, said Hisashi as he walked in. Yes, father? Said Izuku. You're 18 years old and graduated high school with top marks. What college are you planning to go? Asked Hisashi. None. I already have a good-paying job set up, said Izuku. His parents were unaware, but when he was younger he created a stock account and started to invest in stock and crypto and now had a lot of money. He had more than enough to live off of and to supply his umbu with all the gear they will need. Oh, I would have recommended UA if you did. I mean, with your quirk and mindset, I'm sure you would have been accepted immediately, said Hisashi. True, but with my schedule I'd be too busy to go to college. But I'm more than content with this, said Izuku. Okay, well, I'd still suggest maybe doing an online course if they offer it, said Hisashi, which made Izuku nod. They do offer it, but I'd have to explain why I want to do the online one instead, said Izuku. Well, then why not do that then? It'd give you a major, and it'd look good on your resume for any other job you might have, said Hisashi. I'll think about it, father. And forgive me, but I am quite tired and would like to get some sleep, said Izuku. Oh, right, sorry. Well, good night, Izuku, said Hisashi as he left. It was the next night, and all the umbu were standing at attention waiting for their leader to show up. It wasn't long until they saw him. He now had 3 red markings on his face, one under each of his eyes and one on his chin. He wore blue armor with a distinctive white fur collar over a simple black suit. All umbu. Get into your teams, said Tobirama as he watched them all quickly get into their assigned teams. Good, now tonight is the night we go out there and begin our work. You have all been given an assignment. I expect you all to accomplish it and all of you to come back home afterwards. Remember, we live in the shadow, so only reveal yourselves if it's to slay your opponent, and make sure to leave no trails back here, said Tobirama. Hi, Hokage-sama, yelled all the umbu in unison. Good, now move out, said Tobirama, watching them all body flicker away to do their assigned task. So what about me, Hokage-sama, said Dabi, who was wearing his umbu gear and mask. Tiger, you are coming with me, said Tobirama, which he received a nod back. Good, then let's go. It was a silent night in Japan with the occasional hero running around, but they were very, very few in number because there was less news crew and people. But in the shadows, squads of masked figures were jumping from rooftop to rooftop, spreading out through the city. As the figures disappeared, they went to select locations and killed or stole information that would be needed at a later date. But in another part of the city were 2 figures, with one being clad in umbu gear and the other wearing blue armor with a white fur collar. This is our target, Tiger, said Tobirama, looking down at a fancy apartment building where the hero Captain Celebrity lived. From the report I read, he's wanted for smuggling and molestation, said Tiger. Indeed, but before we finish him, let's interrogate him to find any other information he may have, said Tobirama. Hi, Hokage-sama, said Tiger before they both body flickered away. Inside Captain Celebrity's apartment, he was chuckling to himself as he looked over at the girl on his bed that was shaking and crying. Oh, quit crying. You should feel lucky to have intimate relationship with someone like me, said Captain Celebrity. He grabbed his bottle of whiskey and was about to take a sip when he was slammed into the ground and felt his shoulder get dislocated. HH, he screamed before his mouth was covered. Captain Celebrity, you're gonna tell us everything I want to know, or else, said Tobirama, looking at him with a cold glare. Do you know who I am? said Captain Celebrity, who tried to use his quirk but couldn't feel it. I sealed your quirk away so you're defenseless, said Tobirama. I guess I'll have to get it out of you the hard way. FYHHHH, he said before he felt one of his fingers get snapped. 1, 2, said Tobirama as he grabbed his other fingers and kept breaking them one after another. After a couple more seconds, all but 3 of his fingers were broken. Now I begin the real torture and interrogation, said Tobirama as he pulled out a seal and placed it on Captain Celebrity. The next thing he felt was brutal white-hot pain. It was so intense that he couldn't even scream. All he could do was thrash around in his seat in pain, which only seemed to get worse. This seal right here imitates the same type of pain as lava being poured into your body. It also won't let you go unconscious. I'm going to keep it on you until I know that you'll tell me everything I want to know, said Tobirama. As he was interrogating him, Tiger was helping the woman who looked to be 16 and patching her wounds. Don't worry, you're safe, said Tiger as he placed some special healing ointment on her. Thank you. I was so scared, said the girl as she kept sobbing because of her horrifying experience. Tiger just nodded, not knowing what to say, and continued to heal her wounds. So will you talk? Said Tobirama, deactivating the seal after 5 painful minutes for Captain Celebrity. Yes, please, just no more, said Captain Celebrity. Then start talking, or I'm activating it, said Tobirama. In a warehouse in the docking district, Warehouse 13. That's where I sell all my stuff, said Captain Celebrity. And the place is run by a small group of thugs, and in my office I have some files on all my partners, said Captain Celebrity. Good. Now we have no use for you, said Tobirama, activating a different part of the seal which finished him off instantly. Tiger, call the police, said Tobirama, heading for the office. The next morning. On today's news, a massive drop in crime happened last night, and over 60% of gangs have mysteriously disappeared or been killed. The police and heroes are looking into this and to find out who did this to these people. But in other news, 13 pro heroes were found dead in their homes, and all had USB sticks on them, apparently showing crimes they committed. The Hero Association and police have yet to reveal any information on the crime they are accused of, said the reporter. Thank you, Mo. But in other news, apparently with this new organization, the police and heroes are telling everyone to be careful at night, for they are unsure what this supposed group of people will do. Some people say it was ghosts, but no one is quite sure because from what the police reported, there is next to no evidence or trail left behind from whoever killed all these criminals, said another news reporter. Whoever these people are, I should join them to cleanse this world of fake heroes, said a man with a sickening grin, forming. This world shall be cleaned of its stains. Whoever these people are, they are jeopardizing our control of the people. What should we do? Asked a man in a suit. Send Lady Nagant. She's used to all this stuff, so she'll be perfect for this. We can't lose our control, or people might know what we are doing, said the president of the Hero Association. Quite interesting. Quite interesting indeed. Whoever these people are, they are highly skilled and are changing things extremely fast, said All for One. So what shall we do, master? Asked Shigaraki. For now, nothing. Not until we have more information on who they are, said All for One. Tobirama was in his office reading a report one of his Umbu teams left for him after their mission. You did well, and you left no trace of you being there, correct? Asked Tobirama, looking at the 4 kneeling Umbu. Hi Hokage-sama, we made sure to take any evidence we were ever there, said the bird-masked Umbu. Good job. I'll have some money transferred to your accounts once I finish reading the rest of my reports. Your team is dismissed, said Tobirama. It's been 2 weeks since him and his Umbu have started to attack villain organizations and corrupt heroes, and in that time things changed fast. The news has been scouring all over Japan to try and figure out who this organization is, but no matter where they looked, they could find nothing. The heroes and police have been working night and day doing the same and never find a single trail. Some have started calling them ghosts or shadows, but no matter what they did, they could find nothing on them. Hokage-sama, said a dragon-masked Umbu kneeling before him, who was his second in command since Dabi declined the position. What is it, dragon? Asked Tobirama, looking over at him. We have found a massive human trafficking ring that was rumored to be running around in the ports of Tokyo, said dragon. I see. Get 3 squads ready, and tell Tiger to as well. I shall be going on the raid to take them out, said Tobirama. Hi Hokage-sama, said Dragon, bowing before he disappeared in a body flicker. Tobirama was standing on top of a crane overlooking the docking area he was told the human traffickers were. Behind him was 3 of his best 4-man squads as well as Tiger. What are your orders? Hokage-sama, said Tiger, standing next to him. Squad Squid and Badger, I want both of you to secure the area and make sure none escape and no one enters the area, said Tobirama. Hi, said both squads as they all disappeared in a body flicker. Nico, I want your team to go with Tiger and help save everyone and slay anyone in your path, said Tobirama. What about you, Hokage-sama? We know you're strong, but you should be guarded at all times, said a bear Mastumbu on Nico's team. Don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Besides, it's been a long time since I've been in a fight, and I can't afford to get rusty, said Tobirama. I'll cause havoc and draw all their attention on me while you do that. Hi, they quickly disappeared as well, leaving Tobirama by himself on the crane. Tobirama observed the area and saw a couple of lookout and pulled out his kunai, and in a show of extreme marksmanship, started killing them. After a full minute of throwing chakra-enhanced kunai, the lookouts and snipers were dead. He then jumped down and created a blue ball of spiraling chakra in his hand, much like he saw Naruto and Minato create. Tobirama landed on a thug on the ground and slammed his Rasengan into his back, sending him into the ground and tearing through his back, while creating a massive explosion and crater in the ground. He quickly charged forward and threw a bunch of paper bombs, killing more villains and causing lots of noise and havoc. Who is that? I don't know. He was cut off when Tobirama body flickered in front of him and slit his throat with a kunai. He quickly turned around and went through some hand signs. Water style. Water dragon jutsu, said Tobirama, as a massive water dragon was created from thin air and tore through a massive group of thugs, before it turned and destroyed a building where he didn't sense anyone in it. Take this, yelled a villain whose quirk activated, and his arms turned purple and tried to reach out and grab him. Tobirama quickly replaced himself with another villain and threw a kunai at him, cutting his spine from his skull. The villain fell to the ground, dead, with his arms touching the other villain. Water style. Water cannon jutsu, said Tobirama, as he shot a massive stream of powerful hot water that cut through everything in its path. He turned his head and cut a couple cranes nearby and caused them to crash onto the ground, killing even more villains. What the hell is he? Yelled one of the few remaining villains as he backed away in fear. I don't know, said another before she started to run away to try and escape. Tobirama looked over at the running away villains and ran after them at Kage-level speeds and quickly cut them all down. Hokage-sama, all the victims are rescued, said Lion before him, and the other squads looked in shock at the destruction he caused. Good call, the police, and we'll leave before they get here, said Tobirama before he quickly jumped off and started to run up the building. The police and heroes soon arrived, and one of the heroes that did arrive was a sleep-deprived man with long black hair. Holy cow! Who could have caused so much destruction? Said one of the cops in complete shock. Izawa walked over to the destruction and saw lots of corpses of villains and thugs laying on the ground. Some looked like they were slayed by a knife, while others looked like they were cut in half or completely obliterated. Whoever did this is no joke and is insanely powerful, thought Izawa before he looked up in the destroyed buildings. Some of these looked to be cut perfectly like a hot knife through butter. Got any ideas, Eraserhead? Asked Tsukachi, walking up to him. I believe that it was our mystery group of vigilantes, said Izawa. Izawa looked over and saw some of the victims and went over to them. Forgive me, but do you know who saved you? Said Izawa, looking at some of the people. No, but they were wearing what looked like white animal masks, said one of the girls who was being looked at by a medic. I did see one person that stood out, said someone else. Can you give us any description? Asked Izawa with Tsukachi behind him. He wore what looked like blue battle armor and had a white fur collar. The people in the animal masks seemed to view him as the leader, and they all disappeared in the blink of an eye after they called the cops, said the lady. I see, thank you, said Izawa before he walked off to call Nezu. Principal Nezu, I have some information. Oh, and what information would that be, Izawa? Chirped Nezu. This new vigilante group seems to wear white animal masks and follows a man wearing blue battle armor, said Izawa. That's not much to go off of, said Nezu. I know, but it's at least something, and what will we do about these vigilantes? They have been out for only a couple weeks, and they have already began to win people over because crime is even lower now, said Izawa. I'm not quite sure, but I'd very much like to meet the leader of this group, because whoever he is, he's very resourceful and crafty, said Nezu. I'll keep looking and hopefully I'll find something, said Izawa before he hung up. Tobirama and his umbu were jumping from rooftop to rooftop heading home. As they were doing this, they would occasionally stop to stop the random crime they would pass. As they continued to go, Tobirama sensed something coming at him fast and quickly summoned his sword from his storage seal. He turned and quickly cut a bullet in half, with one half hitting the ground and the other flying off into the air. "Hokage-sama!" yelled the umbu as they all got in battle positions to protect their leader. "All of you leave. I'll take care of this," said Tobirama. But Hoka, the umbu, was cut off when Tobirama threw a kunai and deflated a bullet that almost took her head off. "None of you are high enough of a skill level to deal with this, so I'll take care of it. Now leave, that's an order," said Tobirama. The umbu wanted to protest, but reluctantly agreed and ran off heading for home. Tobirama cut another bullet in half that came from a completely different direction and used his sensing ability and found the sniper. The sniper was over a mile away, which impressed him greatly. He quickly started to head in the direction of the sniper while dodging or deflecting bullets that were coming for him. Soon he got close enough and body flickered away right before a bullet took his head away. Lady Nagant looked in shock that her target just suddenly disappeared, and also for the whole time she was shooting at him, he dodged or deflected every bullet. "I was wondering when the Hero Association would send their attack dogs after me," said a voice behind her. She quickly turned around and pointed her barrel at the man she had been trying to kill for the past 2 minutes. She looked him up and down and saw that he looked ready for battle, and she couldn't help but note that he was pretty attractive. "So the Hero Association sent the famous Lady Nagant to kill me. Then again, if they want no trace, they do send you," said Tobirama. "How do you know that?" said Lady Nagant, sweating slightly. "Simple. I not only hacked into your servers, but I also broke into your building and copied your files," said Tobirama. Lady Nagant looked at him in complete shock that he was able to do that and talked like it wasn't even a challenge. "He's dangerous. I can't let my guard down for a second." Both of them stared at each other with neither moving a muscle, but Nagant was sweating slightly cause she can tell from one look. The man in front of her is powerful and could already feel like she lost. So, this was the end of part 1 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.